Hello! In this session I will show you how to increase the expressiveness of your taxonomy. We will especially focus on the difference between taxonomies, custom schemes and ontologies. After this session you will be equipped to create specific relations and attributes that describe your domain as precisely as you need it for your applications that rely on that knowledge model. And we will also go through a couple of concrete examples together that will help you to reproduce the knowledge in your projects. By now, we have created taxonomies based on SCOS, which includes a set of relations that are embedded in the pool party taxonomy tree. The taxonomy is structured as a simple graph through broader and narrower relations and allows to go beyond the hierarchical structure through related concepts. As a user, you don't have to think about the SCOS methodology, you use it almost intuitively, and that's one of the true benefits of SCOS. You can start creating knowledge models without highly advanced knowledge engineering skills. But if you want to express more specific relations and attributes, you need to go beyond SCOS. What do I mean with more specific relations and attributes? You see here the cocktail John Collins, which has the garnished cherry. In SCOS, John Collins and cherry are concepts that belong to different concept schemes and are related to each other. But now we would like to indicate that the cocktail John Collins has the garnished cherry. And this is where custom schemes and ontologies come into play. When we work with ontologies, we classify concepts more precisely, and we express relations which go beyond SCOS relations. In SCOS you have simply structuring elements as concept schemes, top concepts, which are helpful to the taxonomist, but the machine can't interpret the deeper meaning of the concept. But when we introduce classes with ontologies, we add a semantic context so that also the machine understands that John Collins is a cocktail and that it has the garnish cocktail cherry. And you can also get very specific about attributes when you work with the advanced pool party functionalities. When I want to indicate that the cocktail is served frozen, I can do that as well as including a picture for the cocktail or indicating its percentage alcohol per volume. So with custom schemes and ontologies, you can really customize your knowledge models as you need them for your applications. Before I show you hands-on how to develop this semantic expressiveness, you also need to understand how taxonomies, custom schemes, and ontologies play together in pool party. We differentiate 3 layers. Imagine that an ontology is defined around beverages, where cocktails are included, but are only a small part of the knowledge model. And the International Bartenders Association wants to adopt this part of the ontology and create an independent cocktail ontology out of it, which still will correspond, of course, with the original ontology. In case changes occur there, they should be also reflected in the newly created knowledge model around cocktails. So the association could import the whole existing ontology to pool party and take a part of the ontology and create a custom scheme for it. For the association, it will be beneficial to have separate views and management functionalities for the master ontology and the custom scheme. And at the 3rd layer, the taxonomy layer, the custom schemes get applied. In this example, this could mean that a beverage brand wants to offer a recommender application for cocktails and applies the custom scheme to its product taxonomy that is already in place and needs now to get more specific in order to make the recommender application work. The existing concepts of the taxonomy get classified accordingly to the ontology, but only if they fulfill the defined rules of the ontology. And it is not only that classes get propagated to concepts, this also applies to relations and attributes. So when I have an energy drink included in my taxonomy, and the ontology specifies that energy drinks are ingredients of cocktails, which are beverages, my product inherits these classes and relations from the ontology. These 3 layers are very powerful when you use the same knowledge models for different use cases and need variations of it for different applications and stakeholders. The underlying master ontology model stays the same, and it is through the layers that you can manage the knowledge model consistency across projects. So that's why we implemented ontologies as a central hub. It's here that you manage a master ontology that can be applied to multiple projects. In Pool Party, there are 3 different approaches to work with ontologies. You can use existing ontologies for our ontology library, or you can import, for example, existing industry ontologies into Pool Party. And you can build your own ontology. In this session, we will focus on building our own ontology. At the custom scheme layer, you can take parts of one or multiple ontologies and customize it for your taxonomy. So that means you can create mashups of different ontologies within one custom scheme, which then gets applied to the taxonomy. And now we will create an ontology and custom scheme in order to enrich a taxonomy about cocktails. The taxonomy was originally modeled with Pool Party in SCOS here, and now I switch to the tab Custom Schemes and go directly to Ontologies, where I can create a new ontology, which I call Master Cocktail Ontology. And here I can start adding classes. So I will add the class alcoholic beverage. And add the class cocktail, which can be a subclass of alcoholic beverage if it includes alcohol. So I indicate this here as well. I just want to make you aware that you can create subclasses here. And then I will add also the class garnish. And right next to the class tab, you see the relations tab, and here you can add the specific relations. You have different types of relations. So a directed one goes one way. I could indicate that cocktail has some garnish and choose it. But I could also go for the inverse relation, which could look like that I indicate that the cocktail has some garnish, but the garnish is served with a cocktail. And this really depends, strongly depends on your use case, if it's necessary to create such an inverse relation, or if a directed one is enough. I will stick to the inverse now, as this adds even more semantic expressiveness to it. And I will also add a relation as a metric relation. To give you an example how you can use this relation type, you could, for example, indicate that a cocktail is a variant of another cocktail. And here you have the relations displayed, and you can also see the domain range restriction. So you see which classes are used in the subject position and which classes are used in the object position. And then we can move on to the attributes tab and start adding some specific attributes as served frozen. And we need to choose a type to express this attribute, and this is actually a matter of yes or no, true and false, and for that purpose I choose Boolean, and I have attached this to a domain which is the cocktail. So I started to build an ontology, and that's basically how it works. And you could continue to create your ontology according to these principles. And now I show you how you can transform it into a custom scheme and mesh it with other ontologies. To create a scheme out of this ontology, you can simply use this button here, and I will call it cocktail scheme. And then we arrive here at the custom scheme tab, and you see that the relations which were part of the ontology which we created are displayed here as well. And let's say I would like to add the class cocktail bar, which is part of another ontology, like the tourism ontology I created and started to build in the meanwhile. You can simply search for it, and you will also get recommendations where these classes are included, and you can add it to your scheme. So that's what I was demonstrating before theoretically when I was talking about meshing different parts of ontologies in one custom scheme. And in order to use these classes now, we have to enable them. You can do that by going to Options and selecting the custom scheme you want to use for your taxonomy tree. At the moment we have just one. We go to the taxonomy tree, and now we can start classifying our concept schemes and concepts. So in this case, the concept scheme cocktails corresponds with the class cocktail, and that's pretty straightforward. I apply this custom scheme. And now I would also like to classify the fruits as garnish, which are part of the concept scheme ingredient. As in this concept scheme also beverages are included and sauces and sweeteners which are not garnishes, I will apply this class on a lower hierarchy level, which you all should actually keep in mind, that you can even classify single concepts, which can be very useful in some use cases, and you have to decide individually on every use case how you use the available classes. So I classify this as garnish. So, and when I classify my taxonomy tree, I start to see additional elements in my dashboard. First of all, here you see an icon which indicates which class was inherited. So fruit inherited the class garnish. And you also see right next to this cost tab an additional tab for the custom scheme, which is enabled. So you see the inverse relation is served. And now I would like to start relating concepts with each other. I would like to indicate that the cocktail John Collins has the garnish cherry. So I switch to the cocktail, and the cocktail actually has inherited two classes. As you remember, we created a subclass as well. And it has also two relation types, the inverse relation from the garnish and the symmetric relation is variant of, as well as the attribute. So I would like to indicate that the John Collins has the garnish cocktail cherry, and I know that Tom Collins is actually quite similar mixed as John Collins, so I will relate these concepts as well. And I know that John Collins is served poured over ice, so it is served frozen, it's true, and I will indicate this here as well. And when I change to cocktail cherry now, you see that the pool party automatically related the concepts with each other. So before we come to an end of this learning session, I want to speak with you about knowledge modeling, and specifically about when to use attributes and when to use relations. So let's take a closer look at the concept scheme cocktail bars. We have here a collection of cocktail bars in London, for example, and we have an attribute which is called address. So all the cocktail bars have an address. You can create relations only with existing concepts, and attributes you rather use when you have very specific values, as for example thousands of different addresses. It would not make sense to model these addresses, which you can use only once for one cocktail bar, as a concept. That's pretty straightforward. But imagine you have thousands of alcoholic beverages. So you have different vodka brands, and these vodka brands are sold in different kind of bottles, and actually these bottle sizes are standardized across the US and Europe, and perhaps you have 3 different bottle sizes. So you would not like to manually add this bottle size as an attribute. It would rather be handy to model these bottle sizes as concepts and simply relate them through the relation has bottle. And another advantage you have when you create this as a relation is that you can generate lists. So when you go on the concept bottle size, you see the inverse part of the relation is used, and then you see which alcoholic beverage brands are selling their product in this bottle size. Now you know how to extend and tailor suit your taxonomy. You know that in Pool Party we differentiate custom schemes and ontologies. Ontologies are your central hub for your knowledge model. Custom schemes allow you to make mashups out of different ontologies. And you know the workflow, how to enable custom schemes to your taxonomy. So you know that you have to classify your concepts according to the custom schemes you want to use. We also spoke about the different relation types, the directed relation, the symmetric relation, and the inverse relation. And we had a look on different attribute types and a discussion when it makes sense to model something as an attribute and when it is rather useful to model something as a relation. Because knowledge modeling can take different forms, and it is up to your conceptual approach how your knowledge model will look like in the end.